Hello friends and welcome back. Today I'm going to be reviewing That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon. There should be no surprise to anyone whatsoever who has been consistently watching these reviews, but I'm just gonna tell you, this was an impulse grab from the library. Why, looking at this, why would I want to pick this up off the new release shelf? Well, I guess not technically the new release shelf because this came out in 2021, but the featured shelf at the library. I wonder why. What about this? If you have an idea of why I would pick this up, comment below, because who knows why anything about this. I wouldn't. Okay, but all in reality, there's the title demon, love spell, right? No, drunk. Sorry, there's a different one with love spell in the title. And the cover, hello, beauty queen, colorful, eye-catching, grabbing awesomeness. So I think anyone would have a hard time not snatching this book up. As usual, my review will be done in two parts. There'll be a non-spoiler version at the beginning to give you an idea of the book and whether or not I liked it. And then the second portion will include spoilers just to finally get to vent and talk about the book because sometimes no one wants to talk about books with me. Here is the review. Wow, we're starting out at a great place today. Here is my synopsis of the book. In a world where demons are feared, what do you do when you accidentally save one and he shows up to family breakfast the next day? Or when the same demon tells you that your entire society is wrong, that demons aren't the bad guys. No, it's just the goddess you've been worshipping for centuries. Or that he's hot as hell and loves your cooking. As the only human who knows the truth, Sin is tasked with helping the demon kill the sorceress that's been enslaving his people. Either that or he kills her family, and he says that demons aren't the evil sort. I couldn't help it. I had way too much fun writing that. Sometimes you just gotta have fun with it. If you really want an in-depth synopsis, I mean, there's one already written and done for you, but for me, I just want something to grab your attention because I want you to love The Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon as much as I did. Okay, some of the key takeaways that I'm going to reference in this book, for sure, in this first part, are the fact that it's a very quick read. If you're looking for a massively short book, we still have a few, well, when this comes out, that's probably not the case. I'm recording this technically in the summer, but on the cusp. So I wouldn't say this is now a beach read, but if you were still beaching at the time this review comes out or when you see it, this is a great beach read. Spring break read, maybe. Otherwise, maybe you need a cozy, quick weekend read as we get into the fall season because I'm dying for that. I'm dying for the hot cocoa and the fires, fake fires for me because it's too goddamn hot where I live. But if you're looking for a quick weekend read, this might be a good pick. Also, if you're looking for something a little more comedic or you're looking to dip your toe in some harder fantasy books that have still the romance side in it, I wouldn't say this isn't. I guess I actually would call this romantasy. I think this is a romance book with a fantasy layer to it. So if you're looking for something like that, but a little bit more heavy on the fantasy aspect, then this might just be the book to dip your toe into the waters. In many ways, it was unique and had interesting new twists and takes and things that I appreciated. The world that Lemming created had some uniqueness to it. You could see her creative juices flowing. You could really see what she did on her own. But there were familiar things in the story that allowed you, especially new time fantasy readers or people who want something that lends to the lightness of the book, you didn't have to delve too far into the world building to understand what's going on. For some reason I saw some Crave moments in here. Crave, maybe a little bit of Grim, yeah. I'm trying to think, this book reminds me of something else that I cannot put in my... Now, as I said in my synopsis, this book is essentially about a human who goes to a party and gets drunk, ends up saving someone on her way home, and that someone turns out to be a demon who tells her that her entire society is pretty much fucked up and that the person they've been worshipping, who they thank for their safety, is essentially the one that's been enslaving his entire demon population. And she's turning the demons into evil beings that are causing the havoc. And Sin is now tasked with destroying all the sorceress's artifacts to free the demons. But what she's not prepared for is how hot this demon is, and the fact again that he loves her cooking. Which is, if you are a foodie and you want food fiction, I have my critique partner and co-host of the podcast is a huge food fiction lover, and she's also written a food fiction book. she would love this book if she would read fantasy. Two big things that I also want to touch on, the fact is this book is extremely sex heavy. Sometimes to the point that I did want a little bit more plot. There is a portion at the end of the book where I was just like, okay, are we extending the story because the story actually is a story, or are we extending the story just for the sex scene? And I am a huge proponent for romance books, and I'm a huge proponent for very explicit romance books, but for somehow, this one just, personally for me, felt disjointed in that portion. And I wanted more. I wanted more story. Like, I get it. I get we want our honeymoon. I get we want our love scene. I get we want all this. And if you think I'm spoiling shit, this is a romance book, okay? We read romance because we also know how the book is going to turn out. But I could have ended on something other than a sex scene, something other than, the story was over, I guess I should say. It felt very over, and then there was this moment, and we had already had so much sex in the book that I didn't actually need another sex scene. And it's very surprising. So the story I felt was over. This book is only 250 something pages, okay? And this story was, I'm going to get the quote wrong, but really 230 pages in, it was done. Which is surprising because of the fact that it was a fantasy book, and there is quite a bit of world building in this tiny little package here, which partly because the book is so short, to me, since I am a massive reader and I've read way too many books, I could really see where the story was going to be taken next to be able to be fit into this package, which is a little disappointing because there was no way that with the way that the book was set up at the beginning that you would be able to get through all of this in here. And I did think that maybe this was a romance book where the main characters would continue to play out through the rest of the books, but I don't think it is. I'm pretty sure that there's a new character leading the plot in book 2. So when I mean, the title alone kind of lends to that, and it says werewolf, which tells me that it's not a demon. And so that I very much knew other things were going to happen in the book just because of the pure size of this and the fact that what they were saying at the beginning was not going to be able to fit in here. I'm surprised they even fit what they could in here. Lemming really walked the line of being able to provide her kind of beautiful, colorful fantasy world in this little book, because if she had pulled too many more convenient plot twists in here, I would have not liked it, and I would have been throwing this book down. Because she walked that line. She really walked that line, and I feel like there's more here. I do, and so many questions come up when I think about this book and it getting published and sold and the current market of today's books and such. And I know I'm going to say them here. Ugh, I'm being that person. But I have a lot of thoughts. And if you have thoughts and you think you know what I'm referencing, comment below. Maybe we can talk more about it. But there was so much room for more in this book. And I really want more because I love the characters. I love the world. I love Sin. I love her demon. Because, I Fallon, right? And I don't know. I love it so much and I wanted more. And it was just 230 pages of a story is not enough for me, and I was sad about that, and I don't know what to do about all of that, and I had a thought, and it just went poop, and my ADHD brain just went poop with that. So if I think about it, I'll bring it. You'd also probably be surprised at me saying this, but with the fact that this book is so short and is a fantasy book, so we have to use a lot of space to build up the world and the world building and all of that, there was still so much depth in this book, and there was I thought more to the characters. There were backstories and personalities and all of that as well, which made me really happy. And I appreciate the fact that this is a BIPOC lead. This is a BIPOC book. This is not just your typical story that's being put out there, but it was done in a way that didn't feel that the book was just made to be a BIPOC book, because that is something that irks me so much. I totally understand that we need more representations from authors of all color and more representations of all different backgrounds and all this stuff, but I don't want books to be published just because it was created by a BIPOC author, and that makes me very angry. And I definitely did not think that that was the case with this book, which made me love it even more. And I don't know, there's just, I keep repeating this, but there was this weird skill that Lemming pulled off, and maybe I just completely got lost in the world, that I missed all the problems, but the ability that she had to clearly put this all in a book, it makes me feel better for being a very concise reader. Because even with all of this, her descriptions are still beautiful. I still am obsessed with this book. I loved this book. I already got book 2 from the library. I'm dying to read it already. I want to shop this book. I really expected to hate this book. To be honest, like, I grabbed this and I'm like, this is the stupidest read that you're grabbing. You're gonna hate it. I almost returned it to the library before I found time for it. I'm so glad that I gave it a chance, and I'm almost pissed off that I got it from the library and I didn't buy it because I love it that much. So, friends, if you're watching, Christmas present, birthday present. So I did tell you guys that there was going to be a part 2 in here. And it was going to have spoilers. So I guess technically this is the spoiler portion, but really? I don't know what to talk about spoiler-wise. I don't know what to talk about. I guess, okay, so look away. Spoilers. I guess I could say dragons. The fact that Fallon, God, the names, yes, Fallon was a dragon. My God. Because it says a demon. So I think it's supposed to be a plot twist that he's a dragon. But the fact that he's a dragon just made me so happy. Oh my God. Oh, and he was just like the perfect package of dragonness of like, I'm going to kill everyone. If any person that hurts her, I'm going to kill her. Why does that turn me on? Why does that protective nature in men turn me on? There has to be something wrong with me for real. But I loved that portion as well. I appreciated the time in the town when they showed up to destroy the second chalice. And they met, like, the whole scene with the innkeepers and their bickering and the other innkeeper joining along, because we know I don't remember names. I loved her character. I'm really hoping that with the way that this plot plays out, that she is the protagonist in book number 2. The fact that there's a werewolf. Or was it the snake creature that liked her? Oh, man. No, I don't remember. But there's a werewolf introduced in this book, and since the next book is That Time I got drunk and needed a love potion on a werewolf. Okay, so there's a werewolf in the next one, so I'm really hoping that, That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Human. Oh, maybe that's her story in book 3. Anyway, so I'm really excited to have the werewolf's backstory because I liked him a lot in book 1, and I have a feeling that it is him. But it's what can I say? It's cozy, but extremely tropical at the same time. It has great food references. I felt that it had great references to the South as well, especially at the beginning of the book when Sin and Fallon are going through the bayou and the marshes, and she's getting all the seafood or out of the water. That was just amazing. Again, the backstory, especially with her little sister being killed in the same spot, that was a really great job. There were so many plot things of just the world thrown in without going into this really in-depth backstory about everything, which is something that I've kind of been having conversations about more, because it's annoyed me that people feel that they need this like extreme massive backstory about everything, when I personally don't think that they need to have backstory for everything. We are intelligent readers, and we can like take a lot from the idea of stories and the idea of what we recognize in our own world as well. So we don't need, you don't need a backstory of how a car works. It's kind of like what I'm trying to say, is there are things from readers that we can take away and we can kind of deduce in our own mind. And so I really appreciated that. And if anything, this is an imperfect, beautiful example of a quick short book. And I know that there's been rumors and talks about short books being the trend now, and we're not going into these deep books, which does make me sad, because fantasy to me I want more. So I get sad that this is possibly a future example of very short books coming out. However, Lemming does such an amazing job that if books are written with this high of quality in this short time, span, and being able to fit this much in without wearing the reader down either, I think it's great. And I think this is a book for every reader, to be honest. I think it's hilarious and has a huge, beautiful cast. It's character-driven as well as plot-driven. It's not too dense and deep. It's a quick summer read, especially for people that just aren't really fantasy readers but want the fun. It's House of the Romance for the romance readers. It's perfect. And I'm sitting here, and I'm really glad that I made this review before I read book 2, because now I'm just sitting in the emotions of reading this book, and I really, really want to read it again. All right, Barnes & Noble, let me get you. Thank you so much, friends, for listening. This is, life is interesting right now, so I really appreciate this view and to hear my thoughts on this book. And if you've read it, let's start a conversation about what you thought of the book as well. Also, make sure to check out all my other book reviews on the YouTube page as well. I'm also on Instagram at Dark Side of the Word, and I co-host a weekly podcast also on here, and audio only on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So thank you so much, friends. Make sure to just give a like and subscribe. I appreciate everything.